Wow, it's been a month since I've put anything out. Well, hello and long time no see. I haven't been in the mood to put anything out and just have been bogged down with some stuff. Either way, while floating around YouTube, I did find a video that I wanted to respond to. I'm not going to be too harsh or mean as she's only 14, but still some things need to be said. Let's begin.
Hey guys, it's Kaho. In this video I'm going to be talking about toxicity and harassment in the art community. As someone who has personally been a victim and someone who did this when they were younger, I would consider myself an expert at this point. Also, a disclaimer, I don't condone harassment or bullying at all. Whether the person I mention has been harassed or is a harasser, just leave them alone, stay out of their business please. It's not cool to witch hunt people no matter what they've done, no matter who they are, whether they're a tracer, art thief, or just someone, minding their own business and drawing. Just let it be.
I completely disagree. If it's an art thief or someone much worse, they do need to be dealt with. You can't just leave these problems alone and expect them to deal with themselves. That's how communities become plagued with devious individuals. The worst of them isn't art thieves. I don't condone bullying either, but yeah, art thieves and other deviants do need to be dealt with, and depending on what they've done, possibly needing to be run off.
Anyways, I'm going to talk about some of my experiences as well as some issues I've seen. And this video is only partially scripted, so I apologize if I stutter or I ramble or maybe contradict myself because it's definitely going to happen eventually.
What? Please tell me you went through this video and pulled out any contradictions, or at least reviewed what you put out before uploading. For all I know, you're about ready to destroy your entire argument, or rather invalidate your complaints.
The first point I'm going to bring up is art style, copying, everything like that. Things that people have made up just to put people down for how they draw. If any of you have ever been into my comment sections, you've probably seen a couple comments that say, "Oh my god, you're copying Sleepy Grim," or something along those lines.
Okay, first off, warning our audience of the ear-blowing audio next time, much appreciated. Now, as for copying styles, many will mimic certain styles for a time and create characters of their own with their own stories. A good example of this is Kosperry from DeviantArt, who not only mimics the Don Bluth style very well, but they've created an entire story and mini comics all their own using said style. Y'all should check out the Seven Stevens. I'll put a link to the description below.
But if you actually know me, you would know that I'm very open about being inspired by her. In fact, we're on good terms and we'll even talk occasionally. I've never actually had a bad run-in with Sleepy. I will admit that when I was probably just turned 13, that kind of age, I did heavily reference her art.
There's no shame in doing that, you know. Many artists starting out will try to mimic the art style they like the best. Heck, I tried to do it when I was younger. It's a beginner's thing, really. And glad that you're able to talk with the artist that influenced you. That's awesome.
But, once again, I'm totally okay with saying that, and I'm aware that it was a mistake, but this is just kind of how I draw now. But either way, I've been seriously harassed for it on websites like Quomi, Instagram, where you should probably follow. My username is @Kaho. I'll put it in the description.
And those people are wrong for doing so. Also, you need to learn just to ignore those people. If they're seriously giving you crap, they're ignorant. I say this because every artist that is famous or not has had influence or mimicked a known art style in one way or the other. Popular artists have even pulled from other styles and done deviations of certain styles, putting their own spin on it. The influence from my art comes from older styles you see in games like Dragon Quest or even some anime, as I did try to draw that style for a time but moved away from it. Every artist does it whether they're aware of it or not.
And also, just DeviantArt, practically every website you can think of, I've gotten a comment that's quite a rude remark, telling me to, delete my account or overreacting like that. I don't really know how to put it, but I'm not the only one either. I can name 5 people off the top of my head that I know and am friends with that have been harassed for having a similar art style to Sleepy.
Again, ignore these people and let what they say roll off your shoulders. Hell, if they're that obnoxious, freaking block or mute them. No one says you have to put up with these idiots. Now, if they're creating other accounts just to bother you, then put out a word to warn other artists. But if you or your friends haven't blocked them yet, then why the hell are you people complaining? Just saying.
Also, another whisper, you should probably follow these people because they're super nice and awesome. There's Prim T, PG Corgi, Dearly C, Milk Doll, me, of course, and there's probably even more that I just can't think of right now.
So, I have a legitimate question here. Are these people that you listed off as victims of harassment, are they actually the ones complaining or worried about those in their comments section, or are you just complaining on their behalf? You know, when you ignore the trolls and mute them, they do go away when they see that they're not getting attention or getting their wanted reaction.
And my girlfriend also had a similar issue with people saying that she copied Crydia, which is also another popular YouTube animator and on Instagram. Both Cry and Sleepy have both publicly stated that they are perfectly fine with people referencing and being inspired by their art. There's nothing wrong with inspiration, and that's what some people don't understand.
Well, it's good to hear that the actual artists came out and made statements backing up their fans and followers. Also, correct. Inspiration is how we as artists form our own styles and learn how to do different things. As I stated earlier, people who are giving you crap about that are ignorant and more than likely can't draw for shit. I have noticed that it's usually the people who can't draw complain the most. Just an observation of mine.
As much as I hate to generalize, the majority of the animation and art community is just a bunch of 9-year-olds running around trying to defend their favorite artists, and I don't think that's really fair to smaller people who may draw eyes the same way as another person.
The majority of the animation and art community is just a bunch of 9-year-olds running around trying to defend their favorite artists. What? Okay, how many animators and artists do you watch? Do you know how many people are actually in that community? Or what? If that's your generalization of the animation and artist community as a whole, you seriously need to get out of your box more and look around. I follow tons of artists and animators, both on YouTube and Twitter, and they're all adults. I have yet to run into the children you're referring to. Yes, there's always going to be whiners around, but they're not the majority and are quite easy to ignore for the most part.
I don't really get everybody's infatuation with defending someone, even when the person is perfectly okay with whatever you're doing. And I think this is probably one of the largest issues that I've seen on all platforms, and it really needs to stop.
Something I've noticed here is you have yet to present any sort of examples as to what you're talking about. An example of the quote-unquote harassment you and your friends seem to be getting. Would it have inconvenienced you greatly to put in a screenshot or two or get examples from your companions? Right now, you're putting out nothing but a bunch of hearsay, and I have no choice but to take your entire video with a grain of salt.
So, if you've done something like this and you're watching this, if somebody draws in a similar style, just leave them alone. They're fine. Unless the artist that they are referencing or inspired by has specifically stated that they are not comfortable with it, just let them do what they want.
Okay, a few things. Number one, you're not going to be able to control people's complaints towards those artists or even yourself. You either address them by trying to do better, or you ignore them. Number two, the artist who might feel uncomfortable with others mimicking their style technically has no say over who does or doesn't. You can't control what people draw or how they draw something. And number three, the reason why people might complain is because when they see so many artists copying or mimicking one artist in particular, I will say that it can be irritating for two reasons. One, they forgot the artist's name and know them by style, so coming across a mimic is really annoying. I've had this experience once or twice myself. Two, maybe people want to see more unique art and not copies of the same freaking thing or style. Just some food for thought.
It's art, it's expression, and you shouldn't limit that just because, ooh, look, it looks like Cheru's art.
I don't believe they're trying to limit anything or anyone. They just want to see more of a variety of styles on top of not seeing the same freaking style everywhere. Trust me, when that happens, everyone's art begins to blend in together, which in my opinion is not a good thing when one artist can't be picked out from another.
The second point that I'm going to bring up is people being harassed for vent art and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to get too into it, but I have a good amount of mental issues where I think I can say that vent art is actually a pretty good coping mechanism, as opposed to
For the most part, I will agree with you here. I do vent art myself expressing my own past and struggles. However, I have seen people abuse vent art, meaning they make a quote-unquote vent piece that exaggerates the actual problem or portrays a situation in the most horrific light possible, when in reality, the problem or situation itself is nothing like its artistic portrayal. A perfect example of this would be the various feminist comics in regarding to being oppressed by the patriarchy and such, or the various quote-unquote art pieces done by feminists in regards to the talk of certain female topics being taboo or supposedly shamed by society. No, I'm not showing visuals of those. Go look those up for yourself. Also, there are some things that you just don't put out, period.
This is a bit of a trigger warning here, so if you don't want to hear about suicide, self-harm, everything like that, just skip to whatever timestamp I'm putting on the screen.
Before you continue with this bit, I do want to point out here that if you are struggling with thoughts of suicide or self-harm, please reach out to a professional or trusted individual. Please do not remain silent. These are very delicate topics and should be treated with the utmost care. Thank you.
Anyways, a lot of you might have seen my U86 vent from when I was really just down that day, maybe a tad suicidal. Just stuff like that. Once again, I don't want to talk that much about it because I don't want to cry, but,
I have yet to watch the video, nor was I even aware of it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the gist of it was a cry for help to which people responded. You know, sometimes putting that stuff out there on social media can be helpful and will have others online reach out when you feel as though you have no one physically to do so. It's not a tactic I recommend for the most part, but would consider it as a last resort. Now, I will have to say that there are individuals who do this constantly for attention or try to get themselves out of whatever trouble they're in. However, that is few and far between from what I've seen. Hopefully, you're doing a bit better, as this video is a month old just about.
I've also posted a picture of my character with self-harm scars, etc., and I got an unbelievable amount of backlash for it.
Alright, so I have seen rants on particular images such as that before. To many people, you are glamorizing self-harm and making it look cute. This is the argument I have heard. I believe that a lot of pieces similar to your image, a cute character with tiny band-aids all over their legs and arms, were discovered on Tumblr or DA. To me, when I look at this image, it does portray it to be a fashion trend of sorts. I know that this is not the idea nor the intent of your vent piece, but this is how it comes across. Also, let me note here that I myself have never dealt with nor inflicted self-harm, so I do not fully understand the thought process as you drew this image out. However, there are victims of self-harm who have spoken out and are not pleased with the images such as yours. Another note too, everyone copes with their struggles differently, which means they will express their struggles differently.
Even just for drawing my character and expressing how I felt, trying to get those feelings out, people would just be extremely disrespectful about it. I would get comments about calling me an attention whore or calling me depressed piece of shit, and people just telling me to kill myself because if I was sad, why not end it all, right?
And those people are straight up douchebags for leaving such comments. Something I have noticed just from my own channel and putting out vent pieces of my own, Not everyone wants to see those. I'm not trying to offend, so please listen to me on this. There's nothing wrong with putting out vent pieces, it being done in the right way. Yes, there is a wrong way which can make you look crazy or have people become very distant of you. A lot of people go on the internet to have a good time or follow the various dumpster fires. This is just how many people on the internet are. So you're going to come across those dicks that are going to troll you and try to get a rise out of you. My advice? Mute those people, block them, and take a day away from the internet to clear your head. If you're really in a dark place already, trying to wade your way through the trolls or actual toxic people on the internet is not going to help you in any way.
Or when people will leave comments on vents that are like, same XDDD, that is also very disrespectful. I'm just gonna put that out there. Because this is someone's feelings, this is someone's hard work, and they're not hashtag relatable. They just want to be left alone and to their own, and they'll post their vent so you know how they're feeling. But it's an outlet, and you shouldn't be rude to them about it.
Okay, I know this is basic knowledge and cliche, but if you put something out on the internet, especially something emotional, people are going to give their 2 cents whether or not it's wanted. When you put out vent pieces, yes, you're expressing how you are feeling. You want sympathy. And if you're really being honest about it, you want to see if others can relate to you, to see if you can relate to other people who have shared in the same struggles as you. You can't put up a vent piece of all things and expect people to leave you alone because you expressed how you felt. The only way people are going to leave you alone about it is if A, you either don't put it up or you disable the comments, or B, your vent piece causes people to keep their distance from you. Those are the only 2 ways that people will leave you alone about those types of art pieces being put up.
Like, if you see somebody in an event who is clearly struggling with self-harm or suicidal thoughts, what makes you think that it's okay to be rude about it? Because you're only making the issue that you're complaining about worse. This is all I'm really going to say about vent art, because I'm going to bring back some bad memories that I'd rather not bring back, but that's mostly it on that.
People who go to troll the comment section are not there to help. They're there to start shit and get their jollies at your expense. And if a person really is struggling with suicide or self-harm, they should look into getting a counselor and not trying to get the internet to counsel or console them. It's one thing to do to cry out for help or to educate people about depression, talking about the process of walking out that struggle, but it's another thing entirely when someone is looking for sympathy or to be consoled from the web. There's nothing wrong with expressing your struggles, but as I've said before, there is a proper way to do it.
The third issue is that most of this community is extremely young. I'm talking to like sometimes even 8 years old to around my age is still considering young, and I'm 14 by the way, but
again, what artists do you follow or what animators? Let me ask more specifically. What fandom, if any? There are sub-communities for the animation and artist community. All the people I follow are adults just about. I think the artist community as a whole, with animators included, is far bigger than what you've actually explored or branched out to if you're constantly running into little kids or people your own age. Usually that's more in the fandoms and such. Try branching out more and you will find artists and animators who are adults, accomplished no less.
that's one of the things that I feel is an issue, is these people's minds are, well, vulnerable. They're gonna do what someone tells them. Like, if their idol or quote-unquote senpai says that, you know, furries are cancer or something, that kid's just gonna go and leave a KYS in all the comment sections every time they see a furry video because that's what their idol told them to do.
My dear, welcome to the internet where drama is everywhere and rabid fans pollute just about every corner of the internet. As I said, the best thing you can do is mute these people and or ignore them. There's not much more you can do outside of that. And yes, kids sneak into the internet all the time and think themselves edgy. Best thing you can do for them is ignore that adolescent behavior or remove them from your space entirely. I personally keep my interactions with minors to a minimum. Too much trouble in my opinion.
A lot of kids don't know better. See, a majority of them at least have some common sense. Like, I've met kids that have more common sense than I do, but there's so many of them that they just don't really have the whole grasp of what's okay and what's not okay to do online.
They're kids along with being able to be anonymous. Need I say more? What else do you expect from them when they're still very young? And as grown up as you're trying to sound, I can bet you're not entirely versed on how to act on the internet either, much more how to respond to people. There are many points in this video you've made that proves that. I also feel that your expectations are unrealistic as well.
They think that since it's online and not real life, it's just a game, or it's not serious, but there's consequences to everything. You can't just do something and not have an effect. Okay, my god, that was a really bad stutter, sorry about that.
With anonymity, people will act differently than they do in real life. This is especially true of kids. Mom and dad can't get them in trouble if they don't know about it. These days, unless someone's info is already put out there or a close friend intervenes, it can be very hard to get people to take responsibility for what they do online. But that's also the beauty of the internet. You can express yourself behind a nickname with no one be able to link it back to your real self if you have not left bits of personal info lying around that could be pieced together. Also, that last bit shows that you didn't put much editing into the audio. I have a feeling that you just took the noise out and slapped it onto an image, not bothering to listen through to what you actually recorded. Not a good habit to get into.
And the last point I'm gonna bring up is how to fix it, because it's honestly not that difficult. Tell your audiences, especially if they're young, that it's not cool to bully someone because it hurts their feelings, they can have terrible thoughts, etc. And other things. Just
how long have you been on the internet? You're still just a kid yourself, so your expectations here are very innocent and unrealistic. Wishful thinking at best. Now, that's not to say that I disagree with you, but not everyone is going to be nice to you on here, nor are they going to care how you feel. Something you should keep in mind too is that it's important to have a healthy amount of thick skin, meaning you have to understand that there will be people who will shit talk you no matter what you do, and you cannot let it bother you or freak out about it. Many content creators do tell their audience and fans not to witch hunt or harass others. People can't control their audience or their fans. There's a balance for everything, and you have to learn what to address and what to ignore.
Fight with positivity. If somebody's getting harassed for their art style, something like that, leave a nice comment. Tell them it's okay. Contact the artist that they're being harassed about. Say, if somebody's like, oh my god, your art looks like Jaeger's, tell her and ask her if she can help shut it down. Because the most artists are not okay with people being rude or white knighting for them.
You know how many times people have told me my art looks like shit? Or my art style sucks? Countless, but I still draw and practice. At some point, y'all need to learn how to deal with these people on your own. Now, I have seen the artist or YouTuber that's being white knighted for tell the person to knock it off and even go as far as to denounce them. That does happen. Still though, the fans cannot always expect the one they follow or like to come in and squash the problem. You guys have to learn how to solve it amongst yourselves as well. That's part of being on the internet. If it can't be solved, then you guys either ignore or block each other. I'm not sure why this is a hard concept to get. If the person is being that obnoxious, why would you want to try and engage with them? That's just me. You're going to have to learn how to tune certain people out, otherwise you're going to stress yourself out trying to deal with them.
It's pretty common for people to be upset about stuff like that. So the only thing you really need to do is fight back with positivity. And if you see someone being harassed, report it. Don't harass the harasser, because that doesn't make you much better than them.
Fighting back with positivity is not a solution here on the web. That's just from my experience and opinion. When it comes to reporting harassment, yes, do so if the harassment is legitimate. Also, harassing the harasser. Depending on what the individual or people are doing to their victims or victim, the severity of it, there are times where that person or set of individuals need to be run off or thrown out of the community. Predators come to mind as well as doxers. Those two types of people are perfect examples of individuals who need to get run off or made an outcast due to them putting people in danger or preying upon them. This too you must learn as well. The problems on the internet are not solved with gumdrops or rainbows. Sometimes I miss my childlike innocence, but not too much.
Just report it and move on. And I think that's the moral of the story of everything here. Just report it and move on.
I'm not going to try and drill this point into your head because I know you won't fully get it, but let me say this. There are situations on the web where not only individuals need to be run off or taken off, but the means of doing so can either be by the authorities or by someone close to them. It does happen too where the ousted person leaves by themselves. Harsh truth and reality to face, but this is a whole different monster to deal with and learn how to manage it compared to your personal life. You're either going to learn how to do that or you're going to live in a very small bubble on the internet. So that wraps up Kaho's rant, so to speak. What more can I say that hasn't already been said? These kids come on here thinking that everything can be solved or managed the same way as it would be in their personal lives, which is far from the case. Hell, there are even adults that think this way. It's wishful thinking at best. I'm not opposed to the idea of having someone take responsibility online for their crap and getting people removed when necessary, but there are times when you just can't ignore a problem and it takes the help of several people to deal with one incident. Do I wish that there were parts of the internet that didn't exist or that people behaved better? Sure, but I know it's unrealistic to expect that of everyone. I also know better not to venture into certain parts of the web or mess with certain websites if I don't want to paint a target on my head or start unnecessary trouble for myself or others. Everyone needs to learn how to deal with others on the web and themselves. It's taken me some time to learn how to do so in a decent manner, and I'm still learning. The internet is so damn vast that you never know what or who you're gonna bump into on here. That's why it's best to be cautious and watchful. Yeah, have fun, but also take a break and back away when you need to. The internet is not your counselor or your friend. Yes, you can make online friends here, but you can't expect that of everyone or expect everyone to be friendly. Anyway, I think I'm done here. I know this was out of the blue, but it was something I wanted to respond to. See you in the next one.